Welcome to a very special edition of Epic Understanding. I am so excited to bring on my very next guest. Quite frankly, he is brilliant. He is helping us constantly do better. He doesn't even have to be in our living rooms to help us do better. He's written this fantastic book, but it's not his only one. I just cannot stand it. Without further ado, I bring to you Dr. BJ Fogg. How are you? Welcome.
Hello, doing good. I am really happy to be here. I got double booked, so I was doing office hours for some students, but I am here now. I am so glad. Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. You know what? When I read your books and I look at what you have, done for us all, you want to help us do whatever it is that we are trying to accomplish, big or small, is basically what your plight is. And
Yeah,
I've just kind of been mulling it over. This can help with addiction. It can help with losing weight. It can help with keeping our houses clean. It's amazing.
yeah. Well, it's been a super fun journey to do research into how habits work and to have coached. I stopped counting at 40,000. I coached 40,000 people personally, week after week, year after year. It went on and on because habits can be applied in so many areas, like you're pointing out. And
Uh-huh.
it can be for our careers, it can be for our relationships, it can be for inner peace. And so there's just so many ways that it applies. But the good news is there's one method and there's
Mhm.
one way that behavior works. And once you understand that and build the skills, you can apply it in so many different directions.
That is amazing. So I'm curious, BJ, one of your most impactful students created Instagram.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes. So Instagram has become quite a different creature than
Yeah.
when he started it. Those of you who might remember, it's very simple. It was iOS only, it was square photos only, and you had 12 filters and you liked things.
Hmm.
And he was in my class, one of the co-founders, and the
Yeah.
emphasis in that class was simplicity, like how to make things really, really easy. So you can see the connect, and that's what they did. And they made it easier than any other way to share photos. And that's one reason that they pretty much beat everybody out. So you can see
Okay.
the connection between my preaching simplicity to
Yeah.
Stanford students and Tiny Habits, which is all about you succeed by making it really, really simple.
Hmm. Hmm. So your simplicity comes from this idea of behavior design. What is that? What is behavior design?
Oh my gosh. So behavior design is the term that we came up with at Stanford to describe a new set of models about behavior.
Mhm.
Models are ways of thinking, and a
Okay.
new set of methods. Methods are ways of designing. And together that's called behavior design. And so you can take almost anything. Like, I'll just give a weird example. I want more flowers in my life, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
you can take that abstract thing of I want more flowers in my life, and you can use the steps of behavior design and bring in the tiny habits method. I didn't plan
Hmm.
this, Erica, to end up with a lot more flowers in your life.
There
So
you
you
go.
can take, whether it's I want to sleep better, or I want to eat healthier snacks, or have flowers all over the place, like I
Mhm.
actually kind of do. Um, and you can take kind of that dream or that goal or that vision, and with behavior design, you can break it down into concrete actions that help you achieve it. And part of them are one-time behaviors like, oh, buy some really cool vases and plant flowers. And then
Mhm.
some of them are habits. Like this morning, I refreshed all of I had like 12 bouquets around the house, different sizes. Some of them are tiny like this. But it does require daily kind of care and feeding and
Okay.
rearranging. So there's one-time actions, and then there's habits. And for me, working with flowers is self-care. It's a way that I kind of relax and connect with nature and have some creativity. Now, I didn't intend to show this. This is not a crazy, awesome arrangement, but it's pleasing and it's fun to do. So
You know what? I take that as you giving me flowers, so I take those that personally. Thank you.
here
It's
you go.
received. Damn, you got a smile on my face, so I love it. So, in the big scheme of things, because you have affected the world in your teachings in a big way. I'm not telling you to take credit for Instagram, but your thinking has helped with some big ideas. Is my point. So we have some big things that we need to tackle. Don't want to know which side of the fence you're on, whether it's take the vaccine, don't take this vaccine,
Yeah,
wear a mask or don't wear a mask, or whatever it is. But what I'm asking is, what habits can our leadership put in place to kind of glue us back together? Because mostly what I feel is fractured as an American.
yeah, yeah. That's such a great question. Oh my gosh. Let me start with this. And so now so I'm a behavior scientist. I study how behavior
Yeah.
works. You're asking a question that's more about wisdom. And
Oh,
I mean, what should leaders be doing? And so I'll try. This is not based on my
okay.
research. This is based on me having lived in the world a little bit.
Okay.
I think I would say two things. And these aren't specific habits, but they're the starting point for what are those habits. One is uh, compassion for other people, empathy.
Mm,
How can
mm.
our leaders not just say, I feel your pain, but really understand where people are coming from? So that the specific habit for that might be they get on an Instagram account for someone that's not like them at all. And they spend
Okay.
5 minutes on Instagram on some account to understand what is the experience of this transgender person? What is the experience of this person who just lost her job, etc.
Mhm,
So they
mhm.
can, one. Number two would be around, I think, transparency,
Okay.
just being upfront about and explaining things like as your leader, as your elected official, I made this decision for these reasons, and just being really upfront. And let me give an example of somebody who I think is doing both of those. I have a
Okay.
brother in Central California, Fresno, California. He's actually in Clovis. Clovis school districts are a huge deal. And for what he's a doctor, but he ran to be on the school board. And there's a lot of contention going on there on the school board. And so he is kind of um, in the spotlight dealing with all these issues. And I think he's doing a really good job of both of those. He's having empathy and he's being very transparent around what are the challenges and what are the issues and how are they making those decisions.
That's fantastic. So your brother is taking what he understands about empathy and wisdom, and then helping, I guess, create a culture within the
So,
school system.
yeah, he's trying to. So he entered. The Clovis people are going to hate me. He ran as an outsider for the school board under
Hmm.
the transparency because it
Okay.
was like the same people over and over, and it was like these little. My understanding is they weren't being very transparent. So he ran under,
Right.
and people loved that. And the last election he ran unopposed. Nobody had run against him.
Oh.
And yeah, and so now he's facing like parents in the school board meeting screaming at people on the mics and talking about the mask and the vaccination. And he's really listening, and he has to take a stand, but he's being very transparent about it. And I just read the most recent article in the paper there. The
Uh-huh.
journalists are treating him very favorably. My sense
Oh.
of things is the journalists so appreciate the refreshing transparency and
Hmm.
he genuinely wants to help people, that the
Hmm.
journalists are covering like that terrible school board meeting in such a positive way that when he
Oh,
sent me the
wow.
link, I was like, Steve, this sounds like your PR agency is writing this for you. The journalists are, so I think the journalists who really probably the best for the community are, I don't know. I think honestly, they're kind of biased towards him because of his compassion, his transparency.
Ooh. Hmm.
Interesting, right? Because journalists aren't treating many leaders very well right now. But so far, anyway, so I'm pretty proud of what he's doing because it's a Central California, very strong opinions, and a lot of politics going on. And he is, Cal, I'm really proud of how he's handling that.
So you might go down the same vein, but I can't help but ask you, what habit can we have to unpoliticize things? Things are so political. The simplest things are so
Yeah.
political. What can we do?
That's a great, I mean, we could do behavior design to figure that out, but let me tell you what the first step is. It depends how we frame it up. Would it be depoliticize or take the political tension out of an issue? How would you describe it? What are we shooting for here?
Ooh, I would like to depoliticize things
Okay.
because taking the political tension out of something is kind of emotional. But I know that you believe, as a matter of fact, I believe this too, that, habits are based on emotions. So we will go down that road very soon. But I want us to collectively agree that up is up and down is down.
Yeah.
Without.
Yeah. Well, let's just take the context. Let's say my brother, school board meeting, say, hey, I want to depoliticize the school board meeting. So we can talk about the students and helping the students. The next step is magic wanding and behavior design. So it's like, if we could wave a magic wand and get anyone to do anything that would take the politics out of the school board meeting and put the focus on children, what would we do? Who would do what? And we would come up with a whole bunch of ideas. And it might be that the mayors of both cities come to the school board meeting and say, hey, everybody, let's put the politics aside for the next hour. It could be that leading representatives, Democrats and Republicans, show up at the school board meeting, and hand out a flyer to everybody that walks in the door and says, hey, everybody, for the next hour, we're going to put politics aside and focus on the kids. So those are two ideas, but you'd come up with 20 or 30 of those ideas. If we could get anybody to do any behavior, once you have the set of, say, 20 or 30 ideas, then there's a way to prioritize them in behavior design called focus mapping to figure out what one or two are the best ones. So you don't do all 20 or 30. You prioritize from the wide set that you brainstormed, and then you implement those one or two ideas. So you explore, you select, and you implement. That's a type of behavior design in a nutshell. And what it helps you do is it helps you take very abstract problems and get down to the nitty-gritty. What actions are we going to do to have the kind of impact we want on this problem?
I really like that. So clear. See, this is why you're a fabulous teacher. I just gave you this huge problem, and you're just like, it's 1, 2, 3.
What's wonderful is there is a process. There's a method. And like my own small town, I live in a small town of 12,000 people. The former mayor called me and said, BJ, come to a meeting. We got to talk about water conservation in this town. I'm not an expert on that, but if you know the process, if you know the methods, and y'all can learn this, you just show up and you just take people through the methods. And that 45 minutes has led to massive impact in our community. So that fact that there is like webs work through it with essentially that answers gives me tons of hope. It also should give people lots of hope that they can have impact in the world. In fact, at Stanford, we've created a free training course, people working on climate action to teach this very thing, because and it's key for people in the climate space because it's so important that they get trained on how to design for behavior change that we're putting it out there and we're just this might be the next thing that. So yeah.
So what I really enjoy about you, there's a lot of things I enjoy about you, but this one is bubbling up and coming to mind, is that you don't tell people what to think. You just tell them how to think well. And I think that is just so
Oh,
wonderful.
ooh, that's really interesting. Thank you for that. But I do have a point of view when it comes to behavior change, though. For example, you change best by feeling good, not by feeling bad.
Mhm,
So if you're
mhm,
trying to
mhm.
change your behavior and you're feeling shame or pause, back up, there's a better way to do it. If you're trying to use shame and guilt to have other people change, stop. People change best by feeling good, not feeling bad. So I have a point of view on that. And I also have a very strong, clear point of view. In fact, I just sent an email out to, I have a massive email list that basically
Mhm.
said, we got tons of problems going on right now, but truly take action to help our lives better and people around us. And I truly believe that. So yes, we have these challenges. Some of them I'm not going to be able to influence, but I hope to everyday people to make their lives better. And this is really important, be the source of positivity for you. We need that right now.
Mm.
We need hope. I'll just give an
So,
example. Let me give an example of that. Let's say you go to a dinner party and people are talking about the pandemic and all this. If you said, hey, for the next 15 minutes, let's agree that we're only talk about good news. We're going to have a good segment. And then the conversation, that is helping, that being a source of positivity for around you.
BJ, I think your connection is lagging a bit. On my end, for me, you're fuzzy and breaking up. So I'm not
I
sure.
am having some internet issues. Yes.
Okay. So if you don't mind, could you repeat the very last thing that you said?
Yeah. Be the source of positivity for people around you.
So,
And the example was at a dinner party, if everybody's just talking about the negative, say, hey, everybody stop. Let's for the next 15 minutes only share good news and talk about good news and uplifting things. You help redirect that whole group toward thinking about the positive in the world.
so I agree with you. At the same time, I do know that there are some people who are actually addicted to drama, like the negativity of it all. Oh gosh, it's a um, it's a kind of internet, and I think it's called World Star Internet or
Ooh,
something to this. Yeah, and basically, all it is people doing bad things. That's all it is. It's
wow.
bad things, and then there's a type of conversation on the internet, and I don't have it exactly right, but basically, what they do is yell at one another, and they have tons and tons of followers. That's what they watch, and there's that kind of addiction too. I'm curious, what habit could we have to, break that kind of um, thing? I mean, there's negativity TV. I would
Yeah.
think that I think the
Yeah.
news is negativity TV. I have to cut it off.
Do you
Keeps
know,
me.
Erica, I'm going to share. I have a dear friend. She's 93 years old.
Yeah,
She's been married 3 times. She's been through so many challenges. And she is so upbeat.
yeah.
And probably what she would say, I think she's very wise,
Hmm.
is don't hang out with people that are negative, that you design your social landscape so you're with
Hmm.
people that are creative and uplifting and positive and so on. And yeah, that might mean that you distance yourself from some friends or family that are negative. And this isn't my research, but I have to trust her wisdom. And at 93, she's still playing tennis. She still travels. She has aged so very well. And she reads. She's just a model of aging well and resilience that I think she's really onto something. So, yeah. Now, it might be people within your family, so you can't totally avoid them. The good news dinner party we talked about, I drew on what we started doing in my household, and my partner and I, we called it Good News Friday. So we
Okay.
started, hey, today's Good News Friday, only good news, which trains you to talk about good. And if somebody brings up something negative, you just go, Good News Friday,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
fall in line. So if you can't distance yourself from somebody who's a negative force, then there may be baby steps you can take to help them and the people in your household to point to the more positive things that call that. Now, that's not to say the challenges don't exist in the world. They do. But with optimism and hope, we are better able to tackle those massive challenges. If we're
Mhm.
pessimistic and we don't have hope, oh gosh, we're not going to step up and tackle those challenges in the same way.
So I honestly, I really agree with you. It's just that I needed to ask the question so I can pull the people in who are facing those challenges. I have to say it was definitely a behavioral change for me. Um, like anyone, I've matured over the years. I'm 70. I'm like your friend. I'm aging like fine wine, darling.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm going to start talking about you as a model of aging.
Oh my gosh, but no. Um, I was in my 20s and a distinct moment in my life happened where um and I'm just going to be honest and say it was God. I felt it from the top of my head all the way into my stomach, and he made me stop arguing. I'm not going to say that I've never ever argued since my 20s, but
Wow.
the the active engaging in it, the wanting to win in a situation that's arguing, I will actually try to withdraw from anybody who is trying to argue with me. And that has changed the trajectory of so many relationships in a positive way. Um, it's just it has created a space of positivity for me, so I can attest.
Well, that's wonderful. Let me build on that and share one example that happened to me.
Hmm.
I was teaching a class in the spring about all about Clubhouse,
Hmm.
and
Oh.
everything was on Clubhouse. It was a class about Clubhouse on Clubhouse for my Stanford
Hmm.
students. And about 7 weeks in, I went to the co-teacher, Ron Gutman, and I was like, we're on the phone, we're talking about the class, and I was like, Ron, the students just aren't stepping up. They're not very good moderators. Oh my gosh, we really should have trained them more in moderation. And he's like, BJ, they're progressing, they're learning. And he said one more thing, I forgot what it was, but it was just a brief, like 15, 12-second statement. And I was like, oh, you're right, Ron. And that, it's less than 15 seconds.
Hmm.
He
Hmm.
he heard my complaint, but he turned it around and he helped me see the positive in it. And that was like this moment where it's like, okay, I'm going to be that kind of person to people around me.
That's
So
amazing. I
thank you,
love that
Ron.
story.
Thank you, Ron. I mean, it was just a simple statement. He didn't chew me out. He just reassured me that things are going to be okay. They're learning. And yeah,
And it's really about, I would say, changing our perspective a lot of times. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. Well, and it could be simple statements. We have a friend that really everything that seems to come out of his mouth is negative. And before we met him,
Mm.
we were warned on that. In fact, he had a nickname that he didn't know about that was like he was super, super negative. So my partner and I made a little bit of game out of it. Every
Hmm.
time he said something negative, we would come back with something positive.
Okay.
And so we were traveling along and we were with his wife. I think they were taking us to the airport or something. And he said something about the dinner that he and his wife went to, and it wasn't that great. And then I think I said something like, well, wow, there must be one good memory you had from it. I turned to his wife, and her name was also Erica. And I said, Erica, what was that good memory? And so she
Uh-huh.
spoke up and said something good. And after I would say 3 or so times being with him, where every time he'd say something negative, it didn't annoy us because we knew ourselves that we're going to have fun with it and flip it,
Uh-huh.
it seemed like his general attitude around us was much more positive. So in the tiny habits way, it was after I hear, I don't want to say his name, after I hear John say something negative, I will reply with something positive or a positive
Mhm.
twist. And it made it easier to be with him. And I'm hoping it kind of helped him start seeing things, the benefits of a dinner that the service wasn't very good at, but he was there with his wife and had a special experience in some way.
I love that example because it shows that you can actually train someone to be different with you. They may have other habits when they're around other people, but it's kind of like when you go to grandma's house, you're on your
Yeah.
best behavior.
Yeah.
When they're with
Let me,
you,
okay. Yeah. Let me share another example that I learned from a guy named John Lilly,
uh-huh.
who, and this was years ago. And he worked in Silicon Valley, high tech, venture capitalist, all this. This is before he became any of that. And he gave me this tip, like, you would pitch ideas to people and they'd say, well, it won't work for this reason and this reason and this reason and this reason. So you're trying to get, and his phrase was, great, you've told me all the reasons it won't work. Let's talk about how we can make it work.
Yes,
So the phrase was,
absolutely.
yeah, I've heard all these reasons why it won't work. Let's talk about how it can work, which was this nice little hinge transition. Again, it takes like 6 to
Mhm.
say that. And I have used that probably 200, 500 times in the last 15 years, a lot. And it works. That,
You know
just
what? It's a good
acknowledging, and it works. It's like one of those, and this is in some ways the premise of tiny habits. Tiny things can have a transformative impact if you pick the right tiny thing and you put it into action. And that's why I'm so glad we're going to these very specific, even phrases that you could use. Yeah.
yes. So, how do you pick the habit? How do you pick a habit that you should change that's going to make a
The,
difference?
the good news is pick habits that you want to have, not shoulds, not like, oh, I should
Mhm.
exercise more, or I should, write more thank you notes. Those things are great things. But if you don't
Mhm.
already want to do that, focus on things that you do want to do. Maybe it
Mhm.
is you want more flowers in your life, and don't discount
Yes.
that as being trivial. Something like that, having beauty in your life and having creativity every day can
Mhm.
be transformative, because then you view your other projects different. That creative
Mhm.
sense of you gets exercised and so on. So
Mhm.
the short answer is start where you want to start, and
Mhm.
trust that change leads to change. So you can change anything in a positive way, and it has a cascading effect, a ripple effect. So start where you want to start, absolutely. And if you pick something and it's like, oh, I really didn't like arranging flowers, let it go. You learned
Yeah.
something. You thought you wanted to do flowers every day, but you don't. Well, you learned something that's terrific. And then shift gears and put your energy into something else that you really want to do.
I'm hearing you say shift gears quickly. Really. Try it. If you don't like it, then move quickly on it
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. If you feel like you have to use discipline or willpower to do the new habit, that's a sign. It's like, no, no. Now, there may be things, I'll give an example.
Yeah.
Uh, I do believe that eating fermented foods is good for my body. It may not be good for everybody, but I
Yes.
believe it's good for me.
I'm so glad you're going through food because I wanted to share about my diet. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, and so there's also, but you might think, okay, fermented foods, I'm going to eat kimchi, but you may hate kimchi. It's like, oh my gosh,
Right.
kimchi is like insane. Then don't force yourself to eat kimchi. Eat sauerkraut or pickles or other types of ferments, kombucha or however you say that. And then guess what? With time, something like kimchi becomes more of a want. So even though kimchi might be really, really hard to do right now, just get
Mhm.
started in that path. And
Mhm.
then, I mean, fast forward, I have 2 types of kimchi in the fridge right now, and I eat it every morning for breakfast. Whereas a few
Wow.
years ago, there's no way I would have been eating kimchi. So trust that you will change over time, but just get started where you want, and then you will progress and be able to take on things that you never, like kimchi, thought you might want to do. But as you move forward and progress, you'll be surprised how much you change, including your desires. Talk to me about nutrition.
Yes, because BJ, I match your kimchi with pickled beets. And pickled beets and pickled cauliflower.
Oh my
I
gosh. Yes. I'm with
yes,
you on that. I am with you.
yes, yes.
What, talk about healthy foods. I mean, pickled beets and pickled cauliflower, it's really hard to get better than that. At least from my, I mean, everybody's body is different. For my body, those are very, very healthy foods. Yes.
Yes, for me, they're very healthy. I had to get to the place where I understood that pickled or fermented foods were good for me, and it was good for my health. And it was, BJ, it was the tiniest little habit, and it started off with understanding that I needed to not eat a lot of sugar, but I couldn't tell myself no. I had to
Yeah.
point myself in the direction that I wanted to go. So, believe it or not, I have to share, 70 is like my number today because I'm 70 years old and I look like this. And I've lost 70 pounds, BJ. 70.
Oh my
70.
God. Congratulations. You
I know.
know, you, that achievement, Cal, I don't want to get us too body focused, but you decide you headed a direction. I'm sure you weren't perfect. There's twists and turns,
No,
and there's
I
a
love
whole
French
bunch of
fries.
habits that you developed and maintained. Yeah, right. I mean, it's nobody's perfect in this journey. And that's so important for people to understand. What you will see on Instagram are the befores and the afters. What you
Uh-huh.
don't see are all the twists and turns and all the challenges along the way. And that's unfair. That's unfair to all
Yeah.
of us. And when you talk to somebody who has achieved something, dig into, ask them about the twists and turns. What were the setbacks? How did you deal with the setbacks? When did you think that you couldn't do it anymore, and what changed? What was surprisingly easy to do? What was the one thing that you think unlocked? I mean, to understand that change like this is a journey. Nobody's perfect at it, and there's going to be twists and turns, but you will get there if you just keep going. Just get up and take the next step. That is for these kinds of things. Good for you. I think you have a lot to draw on there to share with others in that quest. Whether they're working on weight or productivity or better sleeping or relate, doesn't matter what it is. The journeys can be very similar in these areas.
For sure. My question that I've learned to ask myself is what's the better choice? So I never tell myself no. I just say, well, what's the better choice?
I love that. Oh my gosh, can we name that after you?
Please do, by all
I mean,
means.
can we call it like the Erica habit, where it's like after I am in a quandary, I will ask
Yeah.
myself, what's the better choice? I
Awesome.
think
I
that's
love
so
it.
good.
Maybe it'll appear in your next book.
Well, had I heard that before, it would have been in the Tiny Habits book already. But you can share it with coaches, and I think that's so applicable. I mean, it could go all the way from I'm in a snacky mood, I want to snack on something. It could be
Right.
Friday night. It could be vacation plans. It could even be this morning. I mean, I woke up kind of early and I just wanted to get out of bed. And
Mm-hmm.
it could be the decision, do I get up now or do I try to get more sleep? What's the better
Mm-hmm.
choice? I love it. And being deliberate about it. What happened? Let me ask you this. What happened if your head said one thing and your heart said a different thing? How did you deal with those issues?
Okay. Yes, so that happens all the time. And I say, well, who do I want to win right now? Who gets to win? So it's never an all or nothing thing. It's who gets to win right now is always the thing. And
I
sometimes
love
it's
it.
my heart. Sometimes it's my head.
I love that. Okay, got it. One more question. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I love human behavior. I love hearing how people have solved for it. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a system and whatever, but the specifics, I mean, you figure out some great things. What happens when part of your brain says, Erica, don't ask that question, because if you ask that question, do you ever feel resistance to asking the question because if you ask the question, then you'll do this and not that? You know what I'm saying? Let me give an example. I love salty snacks. Love those
Okay.
salty snacks. So let's say I bought some pistachios in the shell, salted pistachios in the shell. And then I go, it's like, oh, I feel like I need a snack. And I go to the cupboard and it's like, oh, I want the pistachios. But then I think, well, I should ask myself the question. And I say, no, I shouldn't ask the question because I just want those pistachios. So
Yes, yes.
how do you get over that? Like, don't ask the question, BJ. You won't get the pistachios.
Well, no, because then my next question after that is, what consequence am I willing to accept? So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So
That's
I
perfect.
know, really, I really like French fries and a lot, a whole lot. And so I ask myself, am I willing to get whatever happens when I eat French fries? And if I say
Yeah.
yes, then I get my French fries. And maybe
Okay.
I have to exercise, an extra 5 minutes or whatever. And so now I owe myself 5 minutes of extra exercise
Well,
because I wanted my French fries.
do you know what's so smart? Here's what's so smart about that question. And even the initial question is, instead of you're turning something that might just be a habit or mindless or thoughtless
Uh-huh.
into a moment of decision. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're bringing it, me not just grabbing the pistachios, but taking me to a moment of decision. And the last one is part of that is I need to consider the consequences. And part of the consequences will be I'll make a mess in the living room. My partner's a clean freak. He'll go, what's going on? I'll have to get out the little handy vac myself and clean it up, or he'll make a comment. And so at least momentarily, I have to not only make a decision, but in the Erica method, I have to consider the consequences,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
terrific. So you're breaking the mindless, you could call it a habit, just because a habit is something you do without thinking, and then
Right.
you're making it so it's not a habit. It is a deliberate decision. And whatever you decide maybe isn't as important as you didn't do it mindlessly. You were deliberate about it. So thank you for that. That's great.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad that I got to, add to I don't know, your wealth of knowledge. It's like you get something new by talking to me. That is fabulous. That is fabulous. So tell me, I've got to have an understanding of how emotions connect to
Yeah.
habit.
This is so fun and such good news. And Erica, I think you have a sense of this, but for everybody listening or in the future, the good news here, everybody, is you don't have to repeat things over and over to create habits. That's not true.
Mhm.
People are misleading you when they say that, or they don't know the answer, they haven't in the research.
So
What
21 days as a habit is a no.
Not
Okay.
true. Not
Not
true.
true.
And I'm going to type into the chat bar the scientific study people should look up. This is what
Okay.
people always cite, Lawley 2009. Go look at the
Okay.
study. It doesn't say repetition creates habits. That's not
Okay.
what the study says, but that's what everybody, science backed. No, they're not reading the study. They're not looking, they're not understanding the statistics and the study design. What does create
Okay.
habits is emotions. It's how you feel when you do the
Mm.
behavior. So if I pick up this water glass and I
Okay.
feel successful because it's very robust, it's got grip and so on, then reaching for this glass becomes more automatic than a slippery round glass. Okay, so it's
Right.
the
Right.
emotion you feel. So if I feel more successful grabbing this glass, then this glass becomes the habit as opposed to something that's more slippery. So what you want to do to wire in a habit is, as you do the behavior, whatever that is, whether it's putting pickled cauliflower in a bowl or arranging flowers, is allow yourself to feel successful. Allow yourself to feel a positive emotion and turn up the volume on that. Make it stronger if you can, because the the strength of the emotion in that moment, the stronger the feeling of success is, the faster it will wire in as a habit. Let me give just a really quick example. I don't know why I picked the glass one, but it's here. So let's say
Okay.
on my cabinet, I have these round, slippery glasses and I have these robust glasses. As I reach for this glass and pull it out of the cupboard, if I go, oh my gosh, that is so solid and I can grip that so well. If I just think that to myself very vividly,
Yeah.
that is a deliberate way of causing me to feel successful. And then the reaching for this kind of glass is going to wire in faster as a habit, to the point, and this is where I am in my life, I never touched the round slippery glasses. I don't even think about it.
Mm.
I reach just automatically for this because I feel more successful with this glass. And you can do that with snacking. You can do that with these comments,
Yeah.
when you could say, hey, after you help people think positivity, you can go, good for me. I am shifting the positivity in this group. I'm giving people hope. Good for me. You can think that internally and feel good about it. And that feeling, as you know, I've given a name, I call it shine. So shine is
Yes.
the name of the emotion when you feel successful. So it's a skill, and you can cause yourself to get really good at feeling shine in the moment. And that means you can get really good at creating habits fast.
You want to know something? So you reminded me of a story that you told in one of your other interviews, and it was about your teacher who made you feel that way.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Mrs. Bondietti, my fourth grade teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. If, and I'm going to answer the question this way. If somebody listening doesn't know how to feel successful in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
like let's say that you want to take vitamin D every day and you want to make that a
Okay.
habit.
Mm-hmm.
What you can, and if you can't just go good for me or whatever, what you can do is think of somebody from your past who was really important to you. It could be mom, it could be dad, it could be an aunt. In my case, for whatever reason, it's a fourth grade teacher, Mrs. Bondietti in Fresno, California. And I envision her saying, good for you. And she's probably put this on my shoulder, like, you did a good job. And so if I
Yeah.
wanted to wire in vitamin D as a habit, at the moment I take it, I can imagine Mrs. Bondietti saying, you did a good job. And just really feel that. I mean, use your imagination and
Mm-hmm.
let that positive emotion, allow it to happen. Don't resist it, allow it to happen. And in that way, you're self-reinforcing. You're using
Mm-hmm.
that technique and that emotion to reinforce, whether it's vitamin D or cauliflower or what have you. But that's the hack. So the good news, and this is why I got all excited and I said there's good news, is that you can use your emotions. It's already available to you to wire in habits quickly and easily. And notice you do it by feeling positive, not by feeling guilty or shame. You're feeling
Mm.
successful. And that to me is to share that with people and give them a true way to create habits by feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I feel so fortunate to be able to share that with people. But you also know I feel a huge responsibility to share that as well, because as a scientist and as my hands-on practice, to have discovered that, that also means I have a responsibility to share it. So thank you for bringing that up and asking me the question. And Mrs. Bondietti, I don't know why her, honestly. I just think maybe it was a time in my life when I really needed affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
And she was tough. I mean, she wasn't like, she was tough. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
any positive comment, I mean, she was compassionate too, but she was one of those teachers that
Yeah.
made you do stuff. And so any positive feedback from her, I think just feels felt and feels really, really big, even if it's me just imagining it.
That
Yeah.
is awesome. So we're getting to something that I think is really interesting. I'd like to get your feedback on it. We do things not just because we like doing them, but because who they make us regarding our identity. And that's also why we connect with the people
Yeah.
who we connect with. Because like your spouse, your partner, why are you with this person? Not just because you like them, because who they make you.
Yeah. I think that's so true. I mean, I'm going to build on that and go back to what I said. I mean, being a source of positivity to people around you.
Mhm,
Think of the people you like hanging out with. They're people that make you
mhm,
feel good. Now, there's
mhm,
different ways to help you feel good, but one of them is to be the source of positivity. So, like my
mhm.
co-teacher Ron or my 93-year-old friend Dorothy, you know when you're in Dorothy with your Dorothy, you're going to feel better, and you're going to leave that experience being uplifted. And so, whenever Dorothy says, "Yeah, come over and play ping pong," or "Come to my house for dinner," or "Let's go to the beach," the answer is like, "Yeah." And so that's the class I'm teaching at Stanford, starting in about 10 days, is tiny habits for humor and happiness. Because I
Ooh,
think that's what, yeah, tiny habits for humor and happiness. I think the students need that right
are you
now.
teaching that remotely? Can I come?
You know what? I should have you come in as a guest speaker. Okay. But people outside, people can't be students, but yeah, you should join me as a guest speaker and share your insights.
That would be
But what I
amazing.
want for the students is, yes, I want them to have habits of humor and happiness, but I want them to be the source of positivity for the people around them. Because I think
Mm,
that we need that so much today. And that brings people to you. I mean, I mean, I don't have to belabor this point, but now more than ever, if you are a way that people feel uplifted, they're going to seek you
mhm.
out, and you are doing them such an important service. And I'll just summarize it. It's a 4-letter word. You're giving people hope. By being positive, uplifting, you're helping them feel hope. And like I said earlier, we really need that to step up and tackle some of the big challenges we have. So just
Amazing.
that's what I want from my students. I want them to be great at giving other people hope. I know I can help them get hope, but I want them to help radiate out and have a bigger impact in the world.
You want to help them get that shine.
Yeah,
I,
and give shine. Feel shine
yes,
and give
yes,
shine.
get that is
Yeah.
amazing. One, I heard this once that you cannot get rid of darkness by taking buckets of darkness out of the room. You have to bring in light.
Ooh, I love that. And I'm going to build on that. I love that. And the light can be very tiny. In my own life, let me give an example, like in my own
Okay.
house. Okay, so this is a tiny nightlight, and it has
Yes.
an amber glow to it because I'm kind of a believer. I don't want blue light in my eyes at night, but look how small this is.
Yes.
It, in the middle of the night, does such a good job of not brightening the room, but helping me navigate the room, to navigate what I
Oh,
need to in a dark room. And it's not a big light, it's a
oh
tiny
wow.
light. And I think that's kind of an analogy or metaphor of we don't have to be huge. It's the tiniest of lights in darkness can help define the landscape and help people navigate it successfully.
Wow. Now that is worth the price of admission right there. That was beautiful. It was so clear, and I will keep it in my heart truly. Thank you
Mhm.
so much, BJ.
Well, what fun it is to talk to you. I am serious about you guest lecturing in my class. Can you email me or somehow let's arrange that?
Absolutely. I most certainly will. I have
Yeah,
the information. You'll definitely hear from me. Thank you so
awesome.
much.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for coming to visit us here at Epic Understanding. It has been amazing. I'm so thankful.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel so fortunate to be able to share this, and thank you for bringing me in and asking such great questions. And it didn't just feel like questions. It felt like we were hanging out over coffee, having a great friend to friend conversation. Thank you for making that a reality.
That's what it's all about. It's water cooler chat that matters. That's what we are.
Nice.
Thank you, BJ. Bye bye, everyone.